and welcome to October 2024 edition of Macro and Market Update. The US Fed finally launched its much anticipated rate cutting cycle. It reduced the Fed funds rate by 50 basis points, bringing it down from 525-550% to 475-5% level. Fed Chair Jerome Powell noted that the labor market has cooled, no longer serving as a major inflationary factor. However, the messaging in the latest monetary policy appears inconsistent. The Fed projects US growth at 2%, in line with their potential growth. It expects only a slight rise in unemployment rate to 4.4%, still below their NAIRU, that is, non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment estimate. They have also raised their long-term neutral rate projection by 10 basis points to 2.9%. Notably, 9 out of 16 Fed members predict no further rate cuts in 2024, and one member dissented on a 50 basis point cut, a rarity for the Fed. And yet, we saw a 50 basis point cut with an impression that the Fed has been behind the curve. The dot plots for 2024 has been quite volatile, undermining the reliability of forward guidance, leaving the market data dependent but uncertain. The bottom line is that currently stated rate path is not a given. Another key notable is that the Fed has acted before reaching its inflation target of 2%. Indicating a willingness to ease if disinflation toward this target remains in sight. This shift means that 2% PCE inflation is now viewed as a floor rather than a ceiling, suggesting average inflation in the coming years could settle around 2.5 to 3% if we talk about CPI inflation, which tends to be 40 basis points higher than the PCE inflation. Finally, significant rate cuts have historically occurred when recession risks are evident. A 250 basis point cut alongside expectation of a near normal growth raises doubts about sustainability of both the situation. Unless recession risks become apparent, currently unlikely, the bond market may be underestimating the terminal inflation and the ultimate extent of cuts may be less than anticipated. Consequently, for now, the data seems to suggest that the bond market seems to have overestimated the extent of rate cuts. Thus, multiple data suggest that our long-standing comfortable range of 10-year USD at 3.5 to 5.5% still holds true. Thus, with 10-year USD at 3.7%, most of the gain is already priced in. Yet, we now highlight the risk to our own view and how should one view this in the terms of final investment strategy. It's essential to distinguish between the cyclical and structural influences on yields. The growing fiscal deficit presents a structural risk for inflation, compounded by potential tax cuts or increased public spending depending on the outcome of upcoming election. But on the other hand, rate cuts have just begun and we have entire monetary easing cycle ahead of us. Further, the restoration on negative correlation between the bond and equity are cyclical positive for bonds, even as structural headwinds remain. Thus, investment rationale in the bond market has resurfaced in the near term. For gold, this may mean a temporary slowdown in the price increases, though we still recommend maintaining exposure in the precious metals as a portfolio diversifier and uncertainty hedge due to ongoing structural challenges in the bond market of persistently high US deficit and government debt. Regarding the dollar, US monetary easing typically weakens dollar. But another factor required for a stronger dollar depreciation is a better growth outlook outside the US. However, during this cycle, global growth appears weak, particularly in China and Germany, which complicates the situation and suggests a sideways movement for the dollar in the near term. With weak economic data and equity index and government bond yields hitting new lows despite a desire to create a floor on the bond yields, China's government was under pressure to take action to support growth. Last month saw a few more cuts in the rates and a measure by central bank to support the stock market by creating new instruments to offer funds both to companies making a stock buybacks and to institutional investors in the need of liquidity. There were measures to reprice the existing mortgage and lower the down payment for second home purchases. These measures are more of a catch-up to market expectations. Markets reacted positively, but whether the support to market lasts depend on sentiment and more on whether policymakers can turn around the trend of decelerating nominal growth. On current trends, nominal GDP growth could well slip below the already anemic 4% in Q2, which would not be a good environment for corporate earnings. The significance of this package is thus mostly in whether it opens the door to more other moves, more so on the fiscal side. But if the government sticks to its recent pattern of lagging behind market expectations rather than getting ahead of them, it will take longer for China to turn the corner. Another key angle for China is that China is letting a decline in real estate investment unfold while pushing industrial policy to boost manufacturing investment. We see capacity underutilization in some industrial sectors, which is leading them to compete and cut prices and push exports at cheaper prices. This is a risk to multiple manufacturing sectors in India. In India, growth has moderated recently, with public sector capex declining after a period of significant growth. A part of it is also due to weather and general election. Growth in several indicators has softened, such as energy demand, freight movement, and construction. Consumption indicators such as auto retail sales and card spends were also soft. This will likely adversely impact the Q2 FY25 results and GDP as well. Centre's capex thrust is moderating. States' capex is getting compromised by welfare spending compulsion. On the other hand, the private sector capex still looks positive. Real estate launches were affected by general election, but outlook still stays positive. At the same time, the outlook on consumption gets positive at the margin as government spending tilts, inflation moderates, and income situation normalizes from the COVID stresses. Though a softer commodity could positively feed into the gross margins of commodity users, like capital good companies. Overall, macro factors place a certain downside risk to corporate profits in the equity market, which is already struggling with high valuation. Fundamentals dictate a caution on the market, while surge in flow makes it difficult to predict when the equity party stops. But clearly, we can say that both due to global rate dynamics and changing fiscal expenditure style in India, equity allocation should see a sector rotation. In India too, expectations for rate cuts are building, which may compress spreads. Currently, the 10-year G-Sec trades at 675 or so. The inflation outlook for the second half of FY25 appears benign, likely around 4%, suggesting FY25 inflation may undershoot RBI estimates. While we do not foresee rate cuts in the next two policies, they cannot be ruled out entirely for Q4 FY25. Macroprudential measures have led to moderation in bank credit from a growth of 16 to 17% in FY24 to near 13% in FY25. Banks have their own deposit struggle. At the margin, India's growth also appears to be moderating. All these suggest that either in the form of rate cut or liquidity action or macroprudential measures, we could get monetary easing in India. Even for the India-specific demand-supply reason in FY25, Indian bonds could do well in the near term. To some, we are positive on Indian bonds and see scope of further fall in yields despite the compressed spreads, and we stay long duration. Signing off for this month. Thank you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.